Hello everyone and welcome to another event of the BIM ZERO series. Today's event is what is Big BIM and Little BIM and what is the maturity matrix. Joining us today is José Carlos LINO. I am your host Daniel Monteiro, and this event is brought to you by BIM Freelance and sponsored by BIM Week and BIM Campus. Our speaker today is an engineer and professor at University of Minho in the city of Guimarães, Portugal. He's the founder of Newton and co-founder and partner of BIMS. He's also the CEO of Nosso BIM and the academic director of International Master BIM Manager in the Portuguese language. So I would like to firstly thank everyone who's watching and thank especially our speaker and a warm welcome to you, José Carlos Lino. And I will pass you the word now for a brief introduction, and then we'll go to the questions. You have the word.
Thank you, Danielle. How are you? And thank you so much for giving us the pleasure of making this information that we are needing all over the world. We are eager for information about BIM. Today title is very important because we are speaking about what is Big BIM, Little BIM, and what is maturity matrix. Both are interconnected, but let's try to see a little bit what this is. Well, I really appreciate this image. It remembers another one, if you allowed me, the joke that is, does size matter? So it is exactly the same. And the question is, what is Big BIM? Big BIM is a huge BIM, is a BIM for huge buildings, is a BIM for large highways. What is big? What is big? And what is little? Is this a so short BIM? A BIM for a screw, a BIM for a chair, a BIM for a small object? No, nothing of that. The guy that is in this book that launched this statement in 10 years ago, about in more than 10, in 2007 was the year of edition of this book that is precisely called Big BIM, Little BIM, is one famous author from American Institute of Architects. He's an architect, Finis Jernigan, that came with this incredible book that speaks about the real BIM. And the question here is, in a nutshell, is when you are doing BIM with a tool for yourself, modeling 3D, creating images, creating drawings, and going with this, you are talking about one self-individual use of a tool for BIM. And that is okay, but there is much more than that. There is the human component, the other colleagues, the teamwork, the collaborative BIM, the integrated BIM. And that, if you can come a little bit for the slide before of that, and that is precisely what this image shows. The tool is this image of the book, the small. The environment, the whole environment is the big BIM, when BIM matters, when BIM makes a difference, okay? And we can go for the next one. And with this, we need to understand that when you are trying to implement BIM, when you are trying to do BIM, you need to roughly think about these four components, okay? Politics, people, processes, and tools, or technology, if you prefer. And all of them are like indented wheels, so wheels that are interconnected with all of them. You can imagine, Daniel, if you have a very good tool environment, you are incredible in your hardware, in your software, but you don't have people that knows how to handle it. It's nothing. It's like having a Ferrari and don't know how to drive, okay? If you have very good tools and very good people, but you don't write properly, don't draw properly the processes, where are you exchanging information? What are you delivering to each another? Doesn't serve nothing, because you will be in a closed environment. So all of these components are very important, okay? You can go for the next slide, please. And how are these things interrelated from strategy to operation? The top of this pyramid is the strategy. The bottom of this pyramid is the operation, okay? So you can see the components that you have already spoken about. On the right hand side, the people and the tools. On the left side, on the bottom, the processes, okay? And what is the politics? The politics are, what is the standards? What are the standards? What are on a company? What is the organizational mission, the organizational goals, and then the BIM implementation vision goals? Only after that, you will decide what are the uses that you will take for BIM, and then you will decide to train people to draw your organizational and BIM process. And lastly, you will choose the software and hardware that will support all this strategy. So I hope that you can have by now this idea that the big BIM is the big picture, the little BIM is the tool. The tool is very much needed, okay? Don't you forget that. The tool is one of the indented wheels. It's needed, but all alone doesn't make much. It make more than traditional design and the traditional construction, but it doesn't make much. We need to move to the BIM, the BIM that is collaborative among all the others, okay? I hope that this short introduction can bring you a little bit of ideas. Probably you have more doubts than solutions. So please put your questions. Please come up with your ideas for us to discuss a little bit about what is Big BIM, Little BIM. Daniel.
Okay, thank you for that great introduction. So now for the questions. So the first question I had, I think it's mostly answered, but I ask you if you have another few words for it, which is what is Big BIM, Little BIM?
Yeah, absolutely. I can make it in a nutshell. What is Big BIM, Little BIM? Let's start for the Little BIM. Little BIM is when you are doing BIM individually, mainly all alone or a few people using your tool to achieve an outcome. This is Little BIM. If this Little BIM is inserted in a global process, exchanging information with your partners, with the environment of the organization, and having standards that can glue all of these all together, then you are foreseeing the global BIM, okay? And then you are going for an integrative BIM. So, okay, you may start for the tool, you may start for the Little BIM, but you please aim to the moon. And aiming to the moon is aim to the Big BIM, aim to the collaborative BIM, the integrative BIM, where all the organization, and attention, more than one organization, all the market, all the constellations of organizations will start to share information altogether. Some authors also join to this Big BIM, Little BIM, another interpretation that is coming together with the open BIM and closed BIM. As we know, closed BIM is the proprietary BIM, the BIM that is used with one brand, one vendor, okay? And the open BIM is when you are using open standards for interoperability, okay? So there are some authors that join these two ideas and come with the little closed BIM. It's the worst when you are doing the little BIM and you are doing with only one vendor, or the open big BIM. It's the maximum, where you are using the BIM all collaborative, and you are using open standards to make this interoperability. So you can come from this short closed BIM to this large open BIM, and that is the maximum. Okay.
Yeah, and that is the dream, right?
Yeah, not the dream, not so dream. There are lots of examples and samples that we are use cases that we have already in lots of countries. Okay, you can search them in lots of. I really give you the advice for going and seeking the Building Smart Awards. Now we have 3 years of Building Smart Awards. They are incredible because they are very high level advancements and use cases using the open BIM. So we are speaking about the real big BIM and open as well. So we are the best of two worlds on there together. You can Google the Building Smart BIM Awards and you can see that. Okay.
Okay, so if I understand, not all people that says I'm BIM is really BIM. So is that not telling the truth?
No, when I have certainly found lots of people that come to me and we are starting to speak about BIM and they say, no, I know what BIM is. Don't worry, I know. BIM is Revit or BIM is ArchiCAD or BIM is Tekla. So I'm just mentioning three because I could mention hundreds, okay? And these people are speaking, their minds are closed, okay? They are thinking that they know what BIM is. They already know only because they are using a tool, okay, a particular tool. Okay, that's okay. That's the first step. That's no problem on that. But you know, the philosopher Socrates said that I only know that I know nothing. Okay, so the question is exactly that. When we know something, if we think that we already know everything, we know nothing. That's the case of those people that say, I do BIM because I do Revit or I do ArchiCAD. No, you need now to learn to work with your colleague, with interoperability and attention. Try to reach, and we will speak in another block about that. Try to reach a level of integrated BIM where you are using hub, a web server, or web services in the net synchronously, and you are managing your asset online with all the guys interrelated, the designers, the contractors, the facility managers, the owners, the project managers, the surveyors, etc. All of them are in this environment that is global, and they are taking out and putting in information. That's the most important thing. So most of the time when people say I do know what BIM is, they really only have a small vision of what the real big BIM is. Okay.
Okay, and on that point, we already know that BIM is not only an application. So which is the best pathway to understand what BIM really is?
Well, yeah, in fact, you should, in my opinion, you should start by the application. It's not a problem, okay? But at the same time, you are seeing this pyramid from the strategic point of view to the tactical, the middle one, and the operational. What is strategic? Is when you think where you want to go, when you dream, when you envision, when you draw your path where you want to go. The tactical is where you decide, how should I go there? Should I go through the right, or should I cross this river? Should I go over the mountain, or I go around the mountain? You decide the tactic to go to that place, and the operation is actually when you do it. When you go and you put your hands on the way and you go. Okay, so coming to BIM, these three areas about the strategy, the tactical, and operation is precisely that. People, the application is an operational phase. Okay, you can learn software easily and quickly, and you should, okay? But if you are only doing that without understanding the whole process of this pyramid, you are losing a huge part of what BIM is. So I do make my advice that you please learn how to use a tool, but then immediately after, you learn how to communicate with other guys that are using another tool. exchange information with that. I will give you an example. You are architect, Daniel, and I am structural engineer, as you know, by on my early days. Now I don't know what I am. I am a BIM advocate or a BIM evangelist or a BIM guy for sure. So, but I used to be a structural engineer. I still am. I'm sorry, I'm joking. But you are an architect, so you are doing your BIM model in architecture, and then at a certain point, you share your model with me, and I'm looking at your model and I start to build my structure on top of it, okay? Link it to your model. And after a while, we are on an integrated model where we have architecture and structural engineering all together, okay? And you will ask me, Jose Carlos, can you please move your column a little bit because I don't want your column here? And we start a discussion altogether. This is the second level when we start to have this conversation. And then a third level is when me and you, we can communicate with other stakeholders like the owners, the license entities, the contractors, okay? We can start to communicate with them our project, our design idea. And we are in a level where we need to have rules like a BIM execution plan, like a standard to rule this, and what will we exchange. And then at the end, we will go for level where the whole organization, the whole environment is BIM oriented. Everyone knows what we are doing. Everyone understands that the information that we are putting in our objects, what does this matter? So you see, we are climbing. That's my advice for you that is starting. Please start from the bottom and start to with the understanding that you will need to go step by step, adding more collaborative, adding more standards. And when you reach the bottom, you will be on a whole environment that is ruled by the exchange of information, ruled exchange of information. So information that all of us know what that means. And we use standards, we use known semantic rules to understand what we are passing on each other. And then on, of course, a shared environment, a common data environment or whatever, and we will work like this. So this is my advice. Start from the bottom, learn a tool, and then start step by step increasing your collaborative capabilities, and then you will reach the big BIM easily, okay?
Okay, okay. Now, which is the most important thing to change from the AEC industry to the AECO industry?
Okay, that is a very important question that was answered by Patrick McLeamy when he draw this graphic that shows that usually we put our efforts in the middle of the process when only when we are starting to make the construction, we are putting people and we are studying things there, and we are a little bit forgetting the operation phase. And all of us know that when we invest 1 in the design, that means that we will have 10 in the construction or the investment of the construction. And then we will have 30 during the whole phase of this asset, okay? So 1, 10, 30. Why are you sticking on the 1 and 10 when we have 30 to manage? That's the phase of the operation management. So lots of movements, namely the ISO 19650, that is an important standard that is ruling the information management, okay? I advise you to try to read a little bit about it, because surely will be a worldwide standard that will need to be integrated in our processes sooner than later. And in this information management, we are more and more looking at the asset management instead of only the project, the design management, okay? Or the design and construction management. So what will need to change in the AEC industry is we need to call the operation guys to the front of the process. When you architects, or when me structural engineers, and when we design team are starting, we need to call those guys to ask them, do you think that our design is okay for your operation? Do you think that we may optimize? What are we missing here? What are your processes of operation? What do you need? I can give you an example. For instance, in a shopping mall, you know that you have lots of technical corridors. You have technical services that are working on the background, okay? People, the public doesn't see them. But can you imagine what is if you at a certain point you are making your shopping with your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, and at a certain point some guy comes with a garbage on their hands or something like that during on the mall? No, it's not proper. So we need to have proper systems to split these technical areas from the user areas. And this is only one example. We need to call these operation guys to the design to say what they want us to do in order to make, and sometimes energy optimization, energy consumption optimization, solar optimization as well. So we are lots of things that we can do, calling these guys from the front of the process for them to help us to have a better design, to have a better process led in the end. Okay.
Okay, so would you say that the traditional AEC professionals and companies could easily transform into AECO companies and professionals?
Oh, this easily word, the easy word is it's not easy. Okay. No, I will say they will need to dot. Okay. It's a must. There is no option. Okay. There is no option. I'm absolutely 100% convinced of what I'm saying. Okay. You there that are listening to us and are in the traditional way of doing things, I don't care about this, and you are only getting, you please be aware, and the sooner you increase your knowledge, increase your capabilities, have training to know what this is, please enlighten yourselves, and then enlighten your companies, and because don't have any doubts, the world is changing. The IECO industry is changing, and sooner than later, you won't have space to do things traditionally. I may assure you, there are coming standards all over the world. You can go again. I don't want to stick with Building Smart too much, but Building Smart is the open association that is representing, let's say, the open BIM worldwide, and we have everyone there, all the vendors, all the national institutions. So it's a non-for-profit organization. So I think that it's fair enough to speak about it. You can enter there and you can see what is being developed all around the world in standards, and you will see that the global the global wave that we are having about BIM. So if you are thinking that you will pass through the drops of the rain and not wet yourself, don't you believe that you will need to change your ways of doing? Of course, you need to buy software and understand how to use software, and that costs money. Of course, I know that, and that shouldn't be from day to night. Yes, of course, you need to be cautious. You need to be step by step, but don't you let your advancements for tomorrow. Please make the change, or starting to think about the change today, because there will be no space for traditional AEC, as you mentioned. So please, welcome to the new world. Welcome to the new AECO BIM. And lots of people are no longer speaking about BIM. Okay, They're speaking about 4.0. They're speaking about digital transformation. So don't care, okay? The question is, you no longer will speak with your stakeholders through paper that is ink on top of it, and you will show them like, old medieval, not medieval, primitive images that we sculpt on the rock, no, no longer that. You are passing information. You are passing digital objects, and those objects have information, and that information will speak a lot. And for instance, you as an architect, the old days, you draw, like say, equipment. You can choose whatever, a ventilator, for instance. You draw it as a block. You draw it as a parallelepiped, so or a cylinder or whatever. It's shape, okay? Now you don't no longer do that. You will go to a large library of objects, and you will choose the exact ventilator that you want to put there. And when you drag your ventilator to your model, you leave it there, and immediately on that moment, you are having there the cost of the ventilator, the capability of the spread of air of that ventilator, the electricity that the ventilator spends, etc., 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 etc. So you are adding much more than only the shape, only the geometric shape. You are sharing lots of intelligent information that will be needed by the guys that are doing the operation. Okay, sorry for these long answers, but when we're speaking about this, one come after the other, the ideas come around. So sorry, Daniel. You please shut me down when you want. Okay.
It's absolutely okay. What a great and detailed answer, and that is what we want here, right?
Okay, thank
So
you.
on that point, about the necessity of change, I would like to ask you, what do you say to the client about that? I mean, when the client is not prepared for transformation.
Yeah, we know the innovation curve. We already know there is these guys, a few guys that are extremely innovative. They are the pioneers. Everything that comes out, they want to know. They want to be the first to be there. They are a short kind of people. Then they are the early adopters. The early adopters are more or less 10% of the population, people that are foreseeing before the others, okay? This will go to change. Then they bought the first mobile telephone, and the first equipment are those. And then it comes the big mall of people, and we split it in two halves. The first halves are the first ones that are huge area. Usually the brands point to these parts. And the second ones that more or less when all your neighbors start to have, you understand that that could be, and you go. And then you have the late adopters, the lizards, the guys that are so pessimistic that comes always. And you realize that every innovation have this shape, okay? So saying this, what should I say to people that are on the bottom of this curve and are a little bit skeptics? Okay, I I only need and attention. I don't want to say that these skeptics haven't their reasons. They have their reasons. Okay, they don't want to spend. They are okay while they are. They are doing well. Okay. The problem is these guys are not foreseeing the change. Okay, and the change is the only certain that we have about the future. Okay, the future will be change. You know, all the examples that we have that in 25 years half of our jobs will no longer exist. Please look backwards, look on the last century, look where are and let's speak about everything. Computers change a lot, but not only computers. The market changed, the way of doing business change. Now you are buying things online. Come on, think about 10 years, 20, the most before it doesn't exist, that way of doing business. Now you are buying everything online. One day or the other, the buses will be self-driving themselves, okay? Autonomous driving. So the guy that is driving will no longer need to be there. Things like this. So we'll change the market. So the change is certain, okay? And these guys that are not trusting yet are a little bit too hard to have their minds open for the change. They are thinking, oh, we are okay, we don't need to. So what we need to do is showing them some examples of competitors, of colleagues of them that are already doing this shift, okay? And then they will realize the need. And then they see, oh, this guy is doing this. And showing them also all the movements of standardization that is being done all over the world. Lots of contractors, lots of contracts nowadays are being demanded in BIM. And these guys that used to respond to the traditional contracts now are being face to face with contracts that are demanding BIM. So these guys are seeing, wow, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to respond to this. So they are losing share market. So they need to change to this. These are mainly the two ways of changing their minds, is showing them other colleagues, other competitors that are doing differently, and showing them the shift, the change in the standards and in the way of doing contracts that are embedding BIM on their processes. This is my opinion. Okay.
Okay, and about the clients, how are they sure they're choosing guys or professionals with big BIM vision?
Yeah, you know, there are lots of places where the demand for good BIM professionals with the big BIM vision, as you very well say, is being much higher. The demand is being much higher than the offer. We are not having enough professionals in the market that respond to the demand. So we are needing professionals. I can name you several companies. I work mainly in Europe, but also in Africa and also in South America and Brazil, and all over is the same. We are needing professionals that are highly qualified and understand the meaning of the big BIM, and we are lacking professionals, and we are needing to make their training indoors. Okay, we are hiring people that doesn't know how to do it, and we are training them indoors, which is it's painful. It is costly and it is painful. So the training, the shifting and the training and education, because training is one thing, education is another. Education gives you the vision, the conceptual vision of the big BIM, and the training gives you the ability to have a competency of doing, not a competency, an ability to doing a skill to do some tasks. Okay, you are architect, you are able to use templates to produce drawings from your model. For instance, this is a plain task. For you to communicate with your team of engineers, for you to communicate with the client during a common data environment and sharing information through the open BIM, you need to have this global vision of all. You need to be educated to that. So we are lacking this type of people. So I am absolutely knowing lots of examples of people who decided to do trainings in BIM, and then their life shifts a lot because they change, they move to another higher level jobs, or eventually inside their own company, they have this more important status to make BIM implementations, to make BIM changes. So I really think that training is a key point for us to make this shift happen. Okay.
Okay, that's great, and I think that settles the topic of Big BIM, Little BIM. So we can shift now to the topic of maturity matrix. Okay. And we'll again start by a brief introduction.
Thank you, Daniel. This maturity matrix, what is this BIM maturity matrix? Well, I don't want to go too much in detail because it's not the purpose of these talks, but I will pick up these words: BIM, maturity matrix. BIM, we have already know what it is. We have discussed big BIM, little BIM, okay? Little BIM, the BIM that is only linked with a tool. Big BIM is the collaborative BIM, the integrated vision of BIM, okay? And maturity, what is maturity? Maturity is when you measure what is your level inside a subject, inside a content. That's what we are talking about here. So the way that you know if you are in the little BIM or if you are in the big BIM is to measure your level of maturity inside this scale, okay? So this is what it is all about. And we have here this triangle, this famous triangle made by Mark Bew and Richards in 2008 for the global implementation on the UK, where they divide a progressive increase in maturity BIM step by step from 0 to 1 to 2 and to 3, okay? And in a nutshell, what is that levels? Level 0, so, and we are measuring, let's say, a country. We are measuring a whole large company. We are measuring an environment. And this 0 is where you are not doing BIM. You are only using CAD. You are using drawings. You are exchanging drawings like we have done. I have done that for ages, for years. And the level 1 is when you start to do BIM, okay? But you are using models, simple models, usually only to model the geometry. You are sharing using files, okay? You send your file to me, I will send my file to you. Not much of sharing here, but we are already using probably a mixed model between traditional drawings and BIM models with scarce information. Then you move to level 2, that is federated BIM, federated model, a model that is integrated in several disciplines and where you are exchanging information, okay? And you are using a library of objects that everyone understands. You are using a classification system that everyone understands. This is the level that most of the countries are trying to reach, okay? It's a level of a federated model. And the third level is the last one. It's what we are aiming to. There are lots of examples already of the integrated BIM, that is this third level, integrated. That means a level where information is no longer passed through models. It exists in an environment, exists in the cloud. It is online and you can reach it immediately, synchronously, and everyone can use that information. That could be a database, could be a web service, could be, we don't no longer need to call it model, okay? Because everything is there and you can pick and things from there and you can inclusively use this information to make the asset management and the life cycle management of your asset better saying, okay? So 0, no BIM. 1, geometric, simple changing of files. 2, federated BIM, collaborative BIM, that everyone is sharing a federated models of all the specialties, and we are using a common data environment to do this. 3, integrated BIM, where you have synchronous online information share of all stakeholders, namely for life cycle management, okay? And this is the main way of studying the metrics. But next slide, please. When we go to measuring individuals, we need to measure usually in 5 steps. When we don't have nothing is ad hoc, or when you have nothing, we don't have is 0, it's A, as we have here. The B is when you have something defined, is the second level of a maturity level. The 3 is when you have not only defined but managed, you know how to manage this thing. The D is the 4th level, is when we have it integrated. Everything is not only defined but also managed and integrated between all each other. And the last one, when you have it optimized, so you are more than integrated. You are always seeing ahead and always making better. Okay, you are using the uh, the method of increasing better and better and better all what you are doing. So these are usually the 5 standard levels. This picture was taken from BIM Excellence, that is an organization created by Bilal Sukar, one of the well-known researchers in BIM, that created precisely a method to measure maturity matrix. That is a very known method. And in this method, you are studying several levels of things. Of course, what we have already discussed in Big BIM, Little BIM, that is the politics, the people, the tools and the processes, or for each one of these areas, you can measure where you are, okay? But there are others. You can also study your organization. You can also study other areas, and there is lots of maturity metrics in the world that can measure these parts. Why is this important? Because you will have an index to measure where you are and to know where you want to go, okay? Uh, if I may share my screen, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
Yes, I believe you are.
Okay, I will show you quickly one example of this maturity matrix that is, for instance, a maturity matrix shared by Arup, that is very well known, where you, for instance, see in primary disciplines, it's an Excel file with macros, okay? And when you define as secondary disciplines, structural, mechanical, electrical, public health, for instance, and then you start to create your maturity measure, and you go for your project, and you can start measuring and defining where you are. And for each, you can see here a radar graph, and for each one of the lines, like for instance, client specifies BIM requirements, example through an employer's information requirement known as EIR. Where are we? Non-existence or initial or managed or defined or measured or optimized, okay? So we will decide where we are. And when we decide it, for instance, we have a complete client BIM specific information requirements received and comments returned. We can choose, and we decide to put here the level 3. And when we put the level 3 here, immediately it paints in green, and we start to have some grades on my maturity. And we will start, if I continue to put a little bit more, the second one is also level 3. Let's do it like this, maturity. The other one, let's say the BIM implementation plan is only in level 2. And as you can see, the green area, this is where I am, is starting to paint my graph here on the left. So in the end, you will have a measurement, a precise measurement, not only for each one of these secondary disciplines and primary disciplines, but also for your project. This is the type of maturity metrics that you can start to use, okay? I think that this is enough. I will interrupt the sharing. And to finish and to pass to you, Daniel, I will say that we can measure ourselves as individuals. Where is my maturity level? We can measure our team. Where is our team, our small team, architect, engineer, structural engineer? Where are we? We can measure our company, you see. Where is our company in terms of maturity? We can measure our market. So, and eventually our country and our global. So we have steps to measure each one of the small cells that we are increasing. And on all these measurements, we need always to think from the little BIM, the tool, to the big BIM, the integrative and collaborative. Are we doing what we have to do? And to finish, the major lesson that I took out from my personal use of a maturity matrices are not, of course, it's very important to know where you are, because if you don't measure, you can't control. You don't know if you are doing better or worse. Okay, you need to measure always. If you don't measure, you don't know where you are heading to. So you need to measure that dot. But the most important lesson was when I was filling these cells to know where I am always reading one way ahead. What could I do to improve? Okay, so I'm looking to the next cell, and this is the most important lesson. Okay, I'm here. What I have to improve, and then these maturity metrics from Bilal Sukar, from these Arup or others. One very important is from NBMS, from the North American standards that are very important and known maturity metrics developed by CIC. And all of them have this important didactic and pedagogical lesson that is, you are here, what you can do better in this particular area to move onward is this. So I leave you with this last sentence and I pass to you. And thank you so much, Daniel, for your presentation.
Well, that was a great introduction. And now I ask you, in a overall basis, why is it a useful tool?
Sorry, why is what?
Why is the maturity matrix a useful tool?
Okay.
And for whom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I've roughly answered to that. But why is a maturity matrix useful? Why? Precisely by two reasons. First one, you will measure where you are and not measure like, I'm okay, or I'm a little bit bad, or I'm good. No, you will have and don't you worry, you that are listening to us, if you make your first measurement in a maturity matrix and you get, probably you will get, on my experience, a 12%, 13%, 11%. It's not rare, this. So if you have these low rates, you are normal. Okay, don't worry, you are in the average of everyone else. Why? Because to reach the big BIM, you need to have lots of things that people are not yet there. But that is good because you have lots of way to progress. So first reason to be useful, because you measure. It is very important because if you don't measure, you don't know where you are heading to. You need to measure and measure in a iterative and cycling pace. Each 3 months, you will measure again. Each 6 months, you will measure again, and you will see if you are progressing or not. This is the first reason. The second usefulness of this matrix is because you can always look ahead and see what's the next step in each one of these tasks that I need to do to go further. Okay, so the second usefulness of this matrix is you will have on a very nice map what you need to do to increase yourself in this particular area. So I think that these are the two most important outcomes that we can take from using and applying the maturity matrix. To whom should I apply the maturity matrix? To everyone, okay? And the guy that is know nothing and that is 0.000000000, and in the end has 0%, that's not a problem. These two reasons are there. He is measuring himself, he's in a zero, and he is having what he needs to do to pass from the 0 to the 1%. Okay, you will have there all the steps, and some of them are hanging fruits, so are easy to achieve, you know, so are so easy to achieve. So some of them they can probably do, they are not doing yet, but they can probably do easily, or probably let's say they probably are doing it, but not in a defined way. So please do it in a defined way, and then you will have your points. Okay. So to your second answer, to whom should we apply? To everyone, no doubt on that. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So we have the previously mentioned problem of the knowing if a company is AEC or AECO. Now, how can the maturity matrix help to solve this problem?
Absolutely. The maturity matrix goes from the little BIM, the tool BIM, the guy that is using the tool very splendid, but to the big BIM. And the big BIM is when you are seeing the whole environment, the whole and when I say whole, I say collaborative. What this means, all the stakeholders are there, but also in the life cycle of the equipment. So not only in the design, but in the construction and in the operation phase. And we need to look at the operation phase. The operation phase for a public owner is the important phase. They are not the design phase, okay? The design, we are making this mistake when we think, oh, we will spend X millions in that, building that theater, or building that highway, or building that road, or building that dwellings, or building that bridge. We are spending these millions. We are not, we shouldn't look at that. We need to look at what will be the life of this asset. What will be the users of this asset? What will be the management? What will be, we need to look to the 175 or 50 years that that asset will live, okay? And to understand what will happen there. This will be the main vision. So when we think AEC, we are thinking in architecture, engineering, construction, we are finishing our mind only in the design phase. When we are thinking AECO, we are looking ahead until the demolition. So the maturity matrix may help you to reach that, because in the maturity matrix, lots of components are aiming the whole life cycle, the whole stakeholders, and the whole phase. So it's an important tool for us to have this understanding of the big BIM. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So we already know what is the maturity matrix, who is evaluated by it, and how can professionals use the tool, or should use the tool for their growth, right?
Yeah, yeah. The maturity matrix should be used not by itself, okay, all alone. And I decided to use the maturity matrix. No, to use it, it's very easy. As I explained, there are lots of maturity matrices that are free. There are voluntary entities that decide to share the maturity matrix with the world. I've just named some of them. Bilal Sukar with his BIM Excellence is doing an incredible job for BIM in lots of areas. Arup, for instance, is a huge design, engineering, and consultant, decided also to share their maturity vision. And lots of public entities like NBMS, only to mention 3 of them, are sharing their metrics. So you download your metrics and you have the tool to use it. Usually are Excel files that you use very easily way. But please don't use them all alone. Use them integrated in a BIM implementation process, okay? The BIM implementation process usually has 4 phases, okay? And the first phase is always diagnosis, is to diagnose, to identify where you are. Where are you as an individual? Where are your company in this measurement? So the maturity matrix will be used, will be answered there. And lots of companies where I've been working with, trying to do implementations, I was not able to use the maturity matrix yet because they are so low in the knowledge and understanding of BIM that I need to make a survey with plain language questions, like how do you share information with your colleagues, or how you share drawings with your colleagues? And from those answers to these plain language questions, myself, I was um, um, putting the points on the maturity, because if I send them the maturity immediately, they are not able to understand it. It can appear complex, which is not, okay? But the first phase of the implementation is this diagnose. You need to diagnose, and the maturity matrix has an important area. This. The second phase of the implementation is to draw a plan, the so-called BIM implementation plan. You prepare, you decide where you want to, what you want to achieve, where you want to go, what will be the task, what will be the timing to do that, and what will be the training that you will need to do, the profiles that you need to implement in your organization, the uses that you will need to achieve. And this is the second phase. The third phase usually is training people on those things that were prepared on the plan. And the last phase is trying, rehearsing, trying in a pilot case, okay? So we have been trained, we have this plan, we know what to do, let's train, let's test this in a pilot and then in a protected environment to see if we can do BIM or not. So you see this maturity matrix, it can be used throughout this implementation process, despite it is usually used in this first phase. But please don't use this maturity matrix all alone without thinking on all the global process that you want to use. You need to think about it with your mind in this whole process, and with your mind in the last goal deliverables. That's what you should do to achieve this big BIM. I hope that my answer could be enough. If it is not, please, Daniel, come out with interrupt me and ask me to develop a little bit more, and I can try to do it. Okay.
No, it was beyond enough. It was, as always, very detailed. And I actually think the most of what we had to talk here is done. Unless you want to add something, I think we're about prepared to end the session.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniel. I will only finish with my final word that is directed to you that are listening to us and are listening to this wonderful work that is being done by Daniel and Global BIM and BIM Freelance. And uh, please be aware of this. This guy, this philosopher that I really appreciate. There are some new philosophers that we need to look at them, because a philosopher is someone that is thinking, where should we go ahead? And in this age of digital transformation, of um, big data, of artificial intelligence, speaking about singularity. For the ones that don't know, singularity is when the machine will be smart, the day that the machine will be smarter than the man. And we are freaking out about this. What will happen after that? Okay. And we are speaking about so many things that technology is bringing to our lives. Okay. And we need to be attentive to that. And we need to have philosophers thinking about it. We need to have ethics in the way that we are using technology. What should we do? And this is not only a case of losing a job because the job is being done by a machine or so. No, none of that. It's among our way of relating ourselves, our way of working in society. So I will strongly point to philosophers. And saying this, I will come to Alvin Toffler, that was a philosopher that lived 60 years or 70 years ago, and that said that the let's say the people in the 21st century that are that don't know nothing won't be the ones that don't know how to read, how to write, how to make accountability. The ones that don't know nothing, it will be the analphabets people will be the ones that are not able to learn and relearn again. What was in this mind? This guy that wrote this in the 50s, the 50s probably we have already horses pushing cars or so. This guy was foreseeing that no, the world is changing, the future is changing. Please be aware of that and be ready to not doing things the whole time that you are doing. Like Albert Einstein said, don't expect different results from doing always the same. The result will be the same. So those incredible big minds, please look at you that are listening to us, listen to them and prepare yourself for the future. And the future is change, and we are here to help and to share whatever our experience as people that is dealing with this a little bit longer, and we are sharing our experience. Thank you so much. It was a incredible time with you, Daniel, and I compliment all the team and yourself particularly, and give you my best wishes, and keep safe and keep well.
Well, I'm the one to thank you. Thank you for sharing your incredible knowledge and incredible expertise on this topic, and all of BIM. I think we just touched the tip of the iceberg of all your knowledge, and so thank you to you, and thank to all who have been watching. And please continue to follow the BIM Zero series as well as the BIM one-on-one series on BIM freelance. And I will see you then. Bye to all.
Bye. Thank you.